Welcome to the Crafted Conversation, the voice of the crafted concept, brought to you by me, Marcus Sharrod. The Crafted Conversation is my opportunity to speak and give credence to guests from the world of education, educational leadership, elite leadership in general, and of course elite sport, for instructors, those interested in instructional methods and imparting learning, to come and explore, be curious and be open-minded, how we can, as instructors, be better in the way that we package learning for our elite athletes and our pupils. The crafted concept is underpinned by the idea of a learning environment, what that environment, what the culture, what the setting looks like. Learning design, so how we actually piece together what our considerations are around the way that we package that learning piece. And finally, learning critique. How open are we? How curious are we to find out what our learners actually know? How can they be flexible in the way they apply what they know? How has that learning become durable? And the same for our pupils, and indeed for our colleagues, for those of us that are acting in leadership positions. So without further ado, we'll get on with today's episode of the Crafted Conversation. Welcome back to my regular listeners. Good to have you. Let's get on with it. Welcome back to the Crafted Conversation with me, Marcus Sharrod. I'm here this week to talk to you about statements. When I say statement, what I'm alluded to really is an opportunity for us as instructors to consider ways that we can draw out learning that we've already imparted upon our athletes, our pupils, but without necessarily asking a question. Now, the crafted concept within my consulting in the elite sport and education sectors, I'll often talk about the concept of questioning. Regular listeners and regular engagers will know that I am a performance coach. My job is to question, be curious, observe, and try and tease out exploration in the groups and teams that I work with. But one key thing that we can achieve with statements over questions is actually allowing our athletes and our pupils to think in a way that removes as much judgment, perhaps as much necessity to work towards an outcome or a definite correct answer. In last week's episode, I spoke about questioning in general, approaches towards questioning, and was critical of the way in which our society and educational institutes are built around responding to questions, and therefore that kind of foregrounds that sense of, if a question is posed to me, I need to provide an answer or a response, and that response will either be correct or incorrect. There's like a binary element to that is restrictive. It provides judgment. It enters lots of different power relations and issues potentially within a social setting. I observed that just last week. One of the football clubs that I work with went and watched a pre-game analysis session and then spent some time afterwards speaking with the head coach, who, with that kind of open-minded, curious and willingness to receive feedback you would expect from an individual who engages with someone like me in their work, sort of was really interested around the idea of power relation within the room, and that only certain people are going to respond to questions because of the cultural capital or social capital within that room, the expectation placed upon them. If they're a captain or a leader, others look to them to provide answers. But actually, if we're not eliciting responses from as many people in our classroom or in the room as possible, then how can we possibly know that actual learning is taking place? So this episode, I want to spend a bit of time thinking about statements and how they can encourage deeper thinking, discussion, and retrieval practice of previously learned material in a less sort of judging or moving towards a response kind of manner. So why use statements? Statements encourage elaboration. We know from previous episodes of the Crafted Conversation that elaboration is a brilliant process by which we can draw on the long-term memory, think about previously encoded learning material, and then explain and justify and provide different examples and stitch on new learnings potentially, or those that we've gleaned from the group and from others that we can place onto that knowledge that we possess. It also, as I've stated previously in the introduction, it removes the idea of being wrong, but also for you as a coach, for you as an instructor, for you as a teacher, it gives you a chance to check understanding, to scan the room, to be observant, to be listening. It's by providing a statement for your individuals or groups, smaller groups, to work towards defining within their own context and their own retrieval of previous learning, then you have a task orientation, which is brilliant. In my classroom, as many tasks as I can set as possible is a good thing, because it gives me a chance to be the expert, be the observer, go around, listen, hear to who's contributing with what, probe with a few additional questions, but also potentially go around and check off what's being said, what keywords, what previous terminology, who is saying the in possession statements that we would expect from the group because of prior coaching, who's talking about the different types of patterns of play that you want them to play on the pitch that you would expect to hear. How often are you hearing the sort of pattern conversations? I'm thinking about the group, one of the groups that I work with, the playing around, can we play around or can we switch around? How often are you hearing that? Because that allows you to check that understanding. Statements also will give players or pupils an opportunity to consider multiple perspectives, different viewpoints, different lenses that are placed upon the response to the statement. And so therefore they are, by definition there, elaborating and being able to re-encode that information, potentially with some really valuable additions. So let's think of an example of a statement then. I was reading an article about this, and the one that I thought was really nice, it was kind of aimed at more key stage 2 sort of primary age, and it said all child protagonists, all lead child characters in Roald Dahl novels are presented as vulnerable. What a beautiful statement. So that gives, that would give a child, or indeed an adult like me, all of us that have grown up on those wonderful stories and narratives, to be able to go and look at Matilda and look at Charlie and look at Danny and go, okay, yeah, they're all children that are presented as vulnerable. Let's consider that. Let's think about, draw on those different contexts that we have. If I put that into a football context, then you might say something like, the best formation for a defensive mid press would be 3 at the back, so that you had five in and around midfield. Or it could be the most fluid attacking system is a 4-3-3. Discuss. So I've not asked a question. There's a very subtle difference. I've not said who agrees with this, who believes that 4-3-3 is the best attacking formation. What I've said is 4-3-3 is the best attacking formation. And that requires then a real high level of processing. It requires synthesizing previously learned information, being evaluative, being analytical, being critical, being able to offer examples and apply what you know previously to back up what it is that you're responding.
This is a brief pause in today's crafted conversation to talk about how the crafted concept, the overarching business that supports the crafted conversation, both in newsletter and in podcast form, can best support you in your performance environments. The crafted concept has experience working in the education and elite sports sectors through performance coaching for individuals or for teams, the learning environment, by focusing on those 3 pillars of the crafted concept of performance: learning environment, learning design, and learning critique. Contact me directly, because I can help you, as I have done on many occasions, developing a sense of cohesion within the team. Performance coaching aims to drive individuals and teams to excel. And as a performance coach, I am an expert in areas of teaching and learning, instructional design, motivational psychology, team development, performance culture and environment, and performance mindset. It's my job to generate activities, use questioning, listening, observing, probing techniques to deliberately seek feedback and present opportunities for lateral thinking and inspire growth and ideas for you as an individual or for the performance of the team and the collective. The crafted concept is your accountability partner, is your critical observer. I'm able to draw upon experiences as an expert teacher and instructor and as an expertly qualified executive coach, performance coach with over 100 hours worth of coaching experience. As a coach developer in elite sport, I can support and guide coaches through the complexities of your professional development, of your professional environment, offering structure and assisting you in refining your skills through learning environment, learning design, and learning critique. Contact me directly, Marcus at thecraftedconcept.co.uk, or look me up on LinkedIn, Marcus Sharrod.
So let me focus specifically now on how coaches, instructors within a team, individual-based sporting environment can apply this concept of statements. And I first want to qualify the fact that statements are another option within your toolkit when you're trying to impart learning and elicit feedback on prior learning. Then statements are just another opportunity for you to do that, and do that quite quickly as well. So they're not there to replace questions. Questions have an incredibly valuable place within our instructional toolkit, but they are there to support and potentially add different context. So how might they be used within a coaching environment? I mean, my lens as listeners, regular listeners and regular engagers know, is very much football. That's where the majority of my coaching, performance coaching work comes, and of course that's my background. So statements could be used brilliantly in pre and post game analysis. So in a tactical meeting, encouraging players to evaluate their performance and tactical decisions, how they have implemented the tactical strategy in possession, out of possession, make statements about individual analysis of a game, or perhaps every 6 to 10 games you go, okay, let's do a review. Or it might be that you're projecting ahead to a future opponent, doing some analysis on a future opponent, and then make a statement about how your game strategy negates theirs, or more importantly, how theirs could negate yours, what threats they're going to cause you. And by doing so, rather than having, and this is something I see really regularly, particularly within football, rugby also, it is your head coach, the leader, will deliver these types of meetings in a really positive manner, energized, loads of time and effort gone into the preparation, lots of previous clipped footage, VO footage gone into that preparation. And yet, by being a standalone, as we would say in the education setting, a sort of sage on the stage, the individual who is leading and commanding that room, then we need to be really careful and really self-aware of what that says about the power relation within the group. Because if there's only one voice, and that one voice dictates the analysis and dictates even the questioning, when the questioning is quite direct and not very open and directed to an entire room, where we know that from a social perspective, you're probably only going to get 10% of the room that are willing to answer that question, and it will always be the same 10%. And so, therefore, we haven't actually gained a great amount of feedback on what everyone thinks or what everyone knows, which is bad from a positive bias, confirmation bias perspective as the head coach, because I'm looking and going, great, someone answered that question, that must mean they all know. But in reality, you don't know they all know. You cannot objectively say that they all know. Only the certain few, the chosen few who will put their hand up, know. And that's even if you're asking enough questions. But as well as that, we have blind spots, and those blind spots can lead to faulty processes in performance. And those faulty processes can, lose a head coach their job, but can also cause frustration, where then the power relation becomes something different because the coach is frustrated with the group, where what we need to be is completely open and gain as much information about what they know as possible. And if that means that the team meeting takes an extra 20 minutes because you're asking open-ended questions or making a statement and asking them to respond in small groups, so that you can circulate, observe, listen, probe the whole group, then that must be worthwhile. Even on pitch during a training drill, during distributed practice, breaks in play when feedback is being given, or some kind of team instruction, team talk is being given, then why not make a statement? At half time, why not make a statement? Currently, their system is negating our system. They are overrunning us through midfield because they have 2 number 10s and very high and wide fullbacks. That's your halftime statement. Go and solve it. What an incredible way to offer responsibility to the group and ask them to come up with their own solution. During training, you might present a statement to players as a generative activity. So we know that generation is brilliant for learning because it almost primes the brain, releases the right kind of hormones that are suggestive that we are going to encode the information in a way that we show a great deal of intent for what we're about to learn, about to study. If you were to make a statement about a small-sided game or about a particular pattern training drill that you're about to make, playing this pattern and going faking that we're going to go from side to side, but actually spinning the ball into the front man's feet will unlock our opposition at the weekend. And then you go and do the practice, and then you stop during that distributed practice, get yourself a drink, make a statement, small group discussion. This drill is currently highlighting where our greatest potential is at the weekend to hurt our opposition. Yeah, it is actually. Or you might get someone say, it is, but actually I feel like when that ball gets spun into the forward, then actually we need to get number 10 closer to them so that they can play a little bounce ball, then go wide, or then spin in behind. You're giving an opportunity and responsibility for those voices on the pitch, those observers on the pitch, to take responsibility, to action their own feedback as a group, as individuals within a group, those that can see it, those that are on the pitch. That's incredibly empowering. And yes, it's vulnerable because it feels different. It feels different in terms of practice design. It feels different by removing some of the onus on you as the head coach. However, what a difference it could make to have decision makers on the pitch. And regular followers of the Crafted Concept, you know I love to hear from you. I love to get your questions coming in direct to marcus@thecraftedconcept.co.uk, or find me on LinkedIn, drop me a DM. Always keen to respond to questions. And if your question is picked on the podcast and read out, then you will be contacted by me in response to your email or your DM on LinkedIn to offer you your free 30-minute performance coaching consultation. This week I had a football coach who coaching in an assistant coach in the Conference South Division, and really appreciate that individual reaching out to me. It was great to speak to them, spend 30 minutes or so with them, offering that free performance coaching consultation. And their question, that was a really interesting one, was related to last week's episode on questions and how to question in a football environment. And that's exactly what I've been able to go and talk to them about. So thank you very much to them, and keep the questions coming in, and I look forward to hearing from you. Also, if you have a go at this, if you present a statement within your coaching environment, then drop me a line, let me know how it went. So we come to the end of this week's podcast episode of The Crafted Conversation, also available in newsletter form by going to www.thecraftedconcept.co.uk and subscribe there, or indeed at the bottom in the show notes. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm Marcus Sharrod. We're on Instagram at thecraftedconcept_, and also YouTube, The Crafted Concept, where the weekly newsletter
content goes up in video form. If anything today is of interest to you and you want to get in touch with questions, if your question is read out on the podcast, I will get in touch back with you for your free 30-minute performance coaching consultation as a result of your question being curious enough and interesting enough to have been read out and addressed on the podcast. And equally, if any of the work of the crafted concept in performance coaching and consultancy with a particular focus on teaching and learning environments, learning design, and how we critique that learning for performance is of interest to you in the education or elite sports sector, then do get in touch. And you can do so directly via email, marcus@thecraftedconcept.co.uk. See you next time.